All right, so I'm back several weeks, possibly months later. Um, when I made my very first video, I said I wanted to turn this into a series to explain to people what it's like to live with an autoimmune condition, especially one like mine, because I suffer from several different conditions and they're all kind of wrapped up into one. And at the time, I was dealing with one of those conditions flaring up. So I showed pictures of how, as big as my lips are, they were like much bigger than this. If you see the last video at the end, there's a picture of my mouth. And I had broken out into hives. I was itching all over. I couldn't really move I couldn't move my legs. I was having a hard time trying to stand, trying to move. I had to actually completely redo my office space because I work from home so that I was able to stand and work. So I ended up getting a standing desk. I had to switch my chair. I had to get these hanging like stands for my monitors. Like I had to redo a lot of stuff just so that I could function and work because I couldn't stop working. Um, and I meant for these videos to be done every Sunday because, as I told you before, I had stopped taking my medications a while back. I was trying to get them all out of my system. Like it's been some years, maybe 3, 4 years as well. 2 years since the last time I've been medicated because I did have a emergency a couple of years ago and had to go to the ER. And I was on meds for a while behind that. But I've now not had any medication in my system for 2 years now. And I was trying to do things holistically and trying to see if this would work because medication is just not my thing. Number one, I'm not good at taking it. I never have been. I'm only going to take it for so long and I'm over it. Number two, I didn't like the fact that with all the meds that I was taking, and I don't know if I told anybody this before, but I was on roughly 14 different medications. That's including injections, nasal sprays, inhalers, pills on top of pills you only take once a week, pills you only take every other day, pills you can only take at night. Like I was on medication. And every medication, as most of you know, causes something else to go wrong. So now I'm taking medication for all these problems. These problems are causing other problems. Now my blood pressure is shooting through the roof. Like I'm having issues with my ankles swelling. I ended up hemorrhaging, had to go be rushed to the hospital, had to have surgery behind it. Like it was snowball effect. And I was like, I'm not gonna keep doing this. I can't do this. I take my hat off and my fake hair to anybody who can stick with a regiment like that and really be like, every single morning I've got to take this set of pills and I got to take them at this time and I have to take this one and this one. And I used to live with somebody who had to take a lot of medication because of a kidney transplant. And he knew exactly, okay, well, I take this pill at this time. Like he knew his pills on site. He didn't even have to have the labels on the bottle. Like he knew, okay, well, I take these two here and I take this one here and I take this over here and I have to do this. And I don't care how organized I am. I can't. And I won't necessarily say that I just can't do it. It's more of a mental thing, I think. I've always had this issue with pills and medication. And, well, my mother already knows that I was talking about this. But for anybody who doesn't know, my mother was in the medical field. And being around other nurses and being around doctors and things like that, folks tend to get hooked on hospital medication. It's something that I don't know about now, but back then it was common knowledge that this would happen. And my mother had an addiction to pills for a while. And because I lived with that for a very long time, some of which were actually prescribed to her, but again, when you work in a medical field, anybody who's watching this that does, sometimes it just happens. She ended up having to go to rehab for it. It was a whole situation. I was very, very young. Probably 7, 8, up until well, actually a little younger than that. I was probably about 5. Up until I was 11. And I dealt with her addiction and what pills would do to her. Therefore, I've always just told myself the one thing that I could not do. I could not mess with pills. I couldn't mess with medication. And probably that, coupled with the fact that because she used to get free samples all the time, she had a boatload of free samples for like Flintstones vitamins and children's Tylenol, and they were really sweet. They really need to stop doing that. And I sat and chewed them because I thought they were candy and got sick. So it was kind of a twofold situation. But trust me when I tell you, if you OD on vitamins, it will make you vomit. Your body can only take so much as far as vitamins is concerned before it sends the rest of it back up. Learned that one when I was like 4. But watching my mom and her addiction, I was like, I can't do that. I'm never going to do that. So I guess it's stuck in my head that I just can't take pills like that. Now, I do have to use an EpiPen because I'm allergic to bees and wasps. And trust me, if my best friend is watching this, she gets on me all the time because I never have my EpiPen with me when I need to have it with me. I'm getting better. But I have this thing with medication. So I was like, I can't do it. I can't do it. There has got to be another way to do this. Well, like I said, these videos were supposed to be like an every Sunday kind of thing. And every Sunday I was going to sit, we were going to post, we were going to talk about how well I was doing, what's going on, what's happening. And then I hit a wall. I broke out in a rash, and at some point, probably like last video at the end, I will show you pictures of it. I broke out in a rash. First, it was all over my arms. Then it was on my legs. My daughters realized it was on my back. It didn't burn. It didn't itch. It's just I had what looked like whelps all over me. I started searching about. I was like, oh my God, like, because we had a problem with red ants last summer. So I was like, did I get bit by an ant? But I'm like, no, I've been bit by a red ant before on my foot, wearing flip-flops in the grass, and it burned. It hurt. It changes because, like, there's, you know, if you've been bit by a red ant. So I'm like, what is this? It looked like I was being bit by something. I'm checking everywhere. There's nothing. And I'm like, what is this? I've never seen this before. Then these whelps started to flatten out, turn red around the edges, looked like they had turned black in the center, and my skin started flaking and peeling off. This is happening all over my body, but I don't realize it because, of course, I can't see my back. And I saw the marks on my legs, but I guess I didn't really pay attention to the fact that they were changing like that. And then I go to wash my legs and I really look, and I'm like, okay, that's not normal. What is that? So I take pictures because we have telehealth. So I take pictures of, because my arms still had the rash on it. They had started exploding like on my chest and on my legs. And they're like in very specific areas. Like they're on my thighs, but not on my lower legs. They're on the lower parts of my arms, but not on my upper arms. Like they're down here on my breast, but not on my chest area. There's none in my face. So I'm like, what is this? They're in the lower part of my back, but not the upper part of my back. So I send them pictures of what it looked like before, what it looked like after it explodes and it starts flaking up. And I will also put this at the end because I cannot remember the exact wording for it. I want to say it's discoid lupus. And then I pulled up pictures after he said that's what it looked like. And I pulled up pictures of it online. And yes, this is exactly what this looks like all over my body. It's like somebody's been burning me with an old school cigarette lighter from an old car. And I'm like, what is that? And as he's explaining what it is, I'm like, so is this a new condition? Is this a new diagnosis? Is this normal for people who already have lupus? For this, like, is this the progression? Like, what is this? And I have to make an appointment to go back and see him and really get some clarity, because I had to have a moment where I had to really just get mad and cry about it. And that's okay. For anybody who's watching, you've gone through some things, it hurt you. It's okay to just be like, you know what? I need some time to myself. I'm going to have to cry this one out. And I had to cry it out over the fact that this has been my life, my entire life. My childhood went straight to hell. Because between dealing with the issues that my mom had going on and taking care of her, and then being sick and then taking care of me, because I took myself to doctor's appointments at a very young age. Like, I would get dropped off and I would, my doctor happened to be a friend of my mother's. So I've been going to the doctor by myself since I was about 12 and a half, 13 years old. My mom would write out a note what she was concerned with, and I go. As I got older, the first time I was diagnosed with lupus, I was at the hospital with my little sister, who kept bugging me to tag along. And I pretty much, if I could, I took her everywhere. And I took her to the doctor with me, and she unfortunately had to see me getting stuck with needles. She had to see the panic on my doctor's face when they realized what was happening from the last blood test that I had done. She unfortunately had to be there when they handed me the paperwork and said, this is what you have. We called your mother. We got permission to go ahead and tell it to you. And I was 16 years old. And she hands me a stack of papers and says, okay, read these and go talk to your mom. My sister is 6 years younger than I am. So at 10 and 16, we're standing here staring at paperwork like, what? So for somebody to tell me that potentially something else is going on, and I've been dealing with this for so long, and I've been pretty much dealing with this on my own for so long, it's a lot. So I had to step away and take a moment and get myself together and get my head together and try to figure out, okay, what are you going to do about this? How are you going to work with it? No, I'm not going back to taking medication right now. I have been sicker than this being medicated. So I personally feel as though it's working, and I'm going to stick with it until further notice. And I will let you know if it's not working. But right now, this is not the worst I've ever been. So I'm going to stick with what I'm doing and figure out this next chapter and what's happening and what I can do about that. Because as the patches are starting to flake up and like pop, they're actually starting to itch. And I need to, know what I can do to take care of that. And get that under control so that I can continue on the journey that I set out on however long ago. But I just wanted to kind of explain why I made one video and it just disappeared. It wasn't necessarily by choice. It was more so I felt like I didn't have a choice. Like, I had to step away from everything. I podcast. I have a little radio show. I stopped doing everything other than going to work because, I got to pay bills. I stopped doing everything. I haven't talked to friends. I here and there talk to family. Like, I just shut down on everything because I really needed to figure out and deal with the fact that this is my life. This has always been my life, and this is going to be my life. And now I need to find new ways to deal with it. But I had to mourn that loss of my youth, and I had to mourn that loss of not being able to be like other people, not being able to be like other children. And I'm still not 100%, but I'm getting there, and I'll keep working at it until I get there. All right, beautiful people, I'm going to cut this off here. Just want to let you know what was going on, what happened, and I will try to be here every single Sunday so that I can keep you up to date on how this is working. All right, and until next time, I love you all.